Alrighty, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Klaviyo pop-up forms, giving a complete in-depth tutorial. They're one of the most powerful tools in your e-commerce arsenal. Not enough people really use them to the best of their ability. There's a lot of myths. Some people think they're annoying. People set them up and never touch them again. And it's just crazy to me. It's one of the most common things I talk about when I do audits. And I do hundreds of audits a month across e-commerce stores who use Klaviyo. So if you're running an online store and not properly using pop-up forms, you're leaving literally thousands of dollars on the table every single month. I'm not exaggerating. We've come into brands and sometimes the only thing that we've changed is their pop-up form, and they've gone on to double their email revenue just by optimizing the one element on their site. In this video, I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know about pop-up forms, what they are, why they matter, if they're annoying or not, the different types of forms that convert best, how to set them up, and most importantly, how to test them so you can get the most out of them. Now, when I talk about pop-up forms and when I train my team and pretty much when I talk to anyone, I always say they're the highest leverage thing inside a Klaviyo account. Now, what do I mean by the highest leverage? It's funny, when I onboard people in my team, I get them to do a few quizzes. I train them, then I'll get them to do a quiz. And in one of the quizzes, the question is, or one of the questions is, what is the highest leverage thing inside your Klaviyo account? And a lot of them say flows or, campaign content. They think automatically, they think of the thing that is going to drive the most results. Like, well, most of the revenue comes from flows, so therefore the flows must be the highest leverage thing. But when I talk about highest leverage, I'm talking about biggest upside for minimal output. What is something that you can set up or change with the smallest amount of time and see the largest amount of upside? And for me, that's the pop-up form. You can set up a pop-up form in 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. You can A/B test it in 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and it will have outsized gains. There is nothing else you can do with such a small amount of effort that's going to lead to the most amount of gains. Obviously, it takes the knowledge and knowing what to do, knowing how to set it up, knowing which tests to look for. But once you've sort of cracked that and you have an idea of what you're doing, they are the minimal amount of effort or the smallest amount of effort for the largest amount of gain inside your Klaviyo account. So let's just dive into it. What is a pop-up form? Simply put, it's this small little window that appears on your website to collect visitor information. Usually it's an email address. Some people tack on everything from first names to birthdays to bloody maiden name, dog's name. They just really try to stack it and collect as much as possible, but usually it's just an email address, sometimes a phone number. These pop-up forms, they jump up at you during a visitor's browsing experience. I'm sure you've all seen one before. Typically, they're on your site a few seconds after they've been on it or when they show exit intent. The best pop-up forms offer some type of value exchange. Now, the way that I sort of describe pop-up forms to people who are learning about how to run one for the first time is it's just a negotiation. You're asking for something, and in return, you need to give something. You're asking for people to put in their email, and what are you going to give them in return? So, most of the time it's a discount code or it's free shipping or it's a lead magnet. It's something along those lines, but at the end of the day, it's just an exchange of value. You're getting the email address and you're providing some sort of value in return. And here's what most store owners miss. A pop-up form isn't just about collecting emails. It's literally the gateway to your entire marketing ecosystem. You've spent the money on ads. These visitors are now on your website. The pop-up form is going to determine how many of this or how much of this cold traffic rather that you turn into an email address. Because once they're an email address, you have the free remarketing for life. You can send as many emails as you want, extremely low cost, much better than having to run retargeting ads. Pop-up form is the gateway to transforming anonymous visitors into email contacts. And your email contacts and your email list is the asset you own. You don't own Facebook impressions. You don't own Facebook clicks. You don't own site traffic, but you do own your email list. So, probably the biggest myth that you see when it comes to pop-up forms is that they're annoying. But realistically, they're not. Everything will annoy someone. If you're trying to appease to 100% of people, you're never going to be able to do anything. You can't post on socials, you can't send emails, you can't run pop-up forms, you shouldn't even run ads because everything is going to annoy someone. So yes, there are plenty of people who are going to get annoyed by your pop-up forms, but would you rather annoy a handful of people or not grow your email list at all? It's a pretty simple equation to me. You need a pop-up form so you can grow your email list at a rate faster than people are unsubscribing. Unsubscribes are natural, so there is no point trying to get that to zero. So there's always going to be people who are unsubscribing. And if we're not growing our email list, it's shrinking. So we need to be focusing on list growth. Without a healthy email list, you're forever going to have to rely on ads to acquire new customers. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to keep feeding Zuckerberg's pockets. Your profitability and your growth is genuinely going to depend on your email list and the LTV you can get from it. So let's run through a tangible example of the power of pop-up forms and why they matter. So every email you collect is going to be worth about $15 to $35 in lifetime value for most direct-to-consumer brands. So a form that converts at just 5% could mean hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional revenue every single month. Now take this example of a real account that we run. They've done $18 million in lifetime revenue, and they've had a total of 225,000 email list subscribers in their lifetime. That is a value of $67 per email subscriber. The value proposition here is pretty simple. You get an email and you have free retargeting forever, or you don't get the email and you've got to pay more to Zuckerberg. There's really only two sort of pathways here. Someone comes to your website, they either leave and you need to pay more for retargeting with ads, or someone comes to your website, they sign up to your pop-up form, and free retargeting forever. This brand knows for every additional email subscriber they're able to collect through the pop-up form, they can drive roughly an extra $67 in revenue. So if they can take their pop-up form from, say, opting in from 5% to 6%, that might mean an extra 1,000 email subscribers per month, which might mean the potential for an extra $67,000 in lifetime revenue. It's a massive swing. So like the maths and the economics on scaling a pop-up form is, really quite beneficial. Now, this is sort of a Venn diagram like that I send to people when they say the pop-up forms are annoying. There's only two people who benefit from you turning off your pop-up form. It's the three customers or the three Karens who are inevitably going to get annoyed, and they're probably annoyed by a million other things anyway. And Mark Zuckerberg, who's just going to be foaming at the mouth because you're going to go back to the ads platform and have to spend more on your retargeting ads. It's simple. These are the only two people who benefit from you turning off your pop-up form. So let's run through the different types of forms. There are a few different types, but in my opinion, firstly, you always want to use a pop-up form. I have seen brands use full page forms to some sort of level of success, but not as common. Pop-up form is typically always going to have the best opt-in. Now, there's a few different styles you can run, and I've shown a few examples here. Nike Strength has a pretty good pop-up form here. This is a cool example. So you don't actually need to ask for an email on the first step. It's actually a really good way to collect some data. So is someone building their home gym? Are they interested in apparel? Are they looking for dumbbells? Are they trying to build a facility? This is going to give you pretty good info on a customer avatar, which you can either use in your email flows, but you can also feed this back to the ads team and show them which types of avatars are actually coming to the website. Another one is just a micro commitment. So you just give a simple $20 off, simple value proposition. You don't ask for anything yet. All they need to do is tap the button. A lot of people are going to be enticed by that value proposition before they've even had to type anything in. The biggest needle mover in whether or not someone's going to have to fill in your pop-up form is effort. Like, how hard is it for this customer to go and fill your pop-up form in? Is there a million steps? Are you asking them to fill out 4 or 5 fields? The simpler it is, the less you ask for, the better it's going to perform. These are other two examples here, really simple. You could run like a mystery discount, or on the other hand here, super simple. Do you want 10% off? Enter your email address. Like the most bare basics pop-up form, and it'll still convert well. Now, on the sort of topic of the Nike Strength and collecting this data, should you be doing that? Should every brand be collecting zero-party data? Well, what is zero-party data? Zero-party data is exactly what we're collecting here. It's information that customers proactively share with you, like their preferences, interests, or needs. For example, instead of just collecting the email, you might ask what Nike's asking up here, or if you're a skincare brand, you could ask, what's your biggest skincare concern, with options like acne, aging, sensitivity, dryness, flaking, all those sorts of things. And you can collect that data and then you can store it on that customer profile in Klaviyo, and it can be very powerful. The pros of that, you can immediately segment new subscribers. You can feed this data back to the ads team, and you can use this data to direct your marketing messages. For example, if your pop-up form has 80% of people saying they're more interested in acne, then maybe top of funnel, you should be pushing more acne messaging. And in your email campaigns, you should be pushing more acne messaging, as opposed to if only 10% of people are, clicking aging, well then you can focus on aging. You focus less on aging, rather. The cons of asking all these questions, each additional question is going to reduce the conversion rate, typically. It does make your form a little more complex, and it requires more setup work on the back end. The other thing I would add there is it often leads brands to then overcomplicate their strategies. If you have these 4 questions, some brands will then, every single time they want to send an email campaign, they'll try split it out into these 4 avatars and only send email campaigns about those specific products. But you can just shoot yourself in the foot, because just because someone clicked that they're building their home gym doesn't mean they also wouldn't buy a piece of apparel or a hat or a dumbbell. Like, or just because someone said they're bloody interested in apparel and hats doesn't mean they're not also one day going to buy some dumbbells or equip their home gym. All those things can be true. So you don't want to like overthink it too much and really pigeonhole people into these questions, but it definitely is useful data in directing your overall marketing strategy and feeding back to the ads team. Now, a popular thing at the moment is running third-party softwares. Like there's I don't know, some off the top of my head. It's like a Alia Learn or something like that. I don't even know what it's called. Amped by MailChimp, Optimonk, Attentive. There's plenty of other softwares you can run outside of Klaviyo to run your pop-up form, and they all sort of promote like, we'll get you better opt-in. But in my opinion, you don't really need to do that. You can really run amazing forms without having to pay for another software. You can set these forms up right within Klaviyo. Plus, you can then track and test it inside Klaviyo. Quick pros and cons list. The pros of setting it up in Klaviyo: you've got the data in platform, there's less software to worry about and pay for, and faster A/B testing. You can just quickly whip it up in platform while you're already in Klaviyo and get tangible results. Whereas the cons of Klaviyo, they are slightly slower. Like, it's not like the most native platform for it. Like, if you run a third-party platform and their whole goal is to just run pop-ups, it's probably going to run a little smoother, but not the end of the world. Klaviyo forms can be slightly less aesthetic. You can run some of the pop-up form builders these days, which are third-party softwares, are super graphic and design focused, so you can make them quite pretty. But I don't know if that's a huge needle mover. And in Klaviyo, it's probably a bit harder to customize. Like, some of these forms map these questions for you really well, and it's super simple, where in Klaviyo, it's a lot of sort of manual tweaking and tinkering. So, without further ado, let's go and set up a pop-up form inside a Klaviyo account. So we're in Klaviyo here. This is just a burner account, and we're going to set up a pop-up form. So what you do is you navigate to the sign up forms tab on the left here. We're going to create a form. Like I said, we want to create a pop-up form, and we can just create a blank form. Or you can choose from any of these. Klaviyo just rolled out a spin to win. Personally, I think the spin to win's a little tacky. But there's plenty of templates here that we can build off. This one looks like a good one. Subscribe for a coupon. Nice and simple. Let's start with this. So you want to choose a list. We'll just send it to our newsletter. You pretty much want to send it to your main email list, unless this pop-up form is for something really specific and you want a separate list. Name it whatever you like. Create form. Now, while that loads, what we want to do here, do you want to add a teaser? I think it depends on your site UI. I would just A/B test with and without the teaser. You also don't want to tank your site conversion rate too much. Like, if you have a teaser, which, for example, some people do, like these rectangles, if you're on a mobile device, that can be quite intrusive. Like, it can actually block a lot of buttons. So I prefer not to run a teaser on mobile. Maybe on desktop, I would run it though. Now, we have our pop-up form here. First thing I've noticed, it's quite small. It's quite clunky for mobile. So what we want to do is just start editing it. So the width, experiment with a few here. Medium, pretty good. Small, it's too narrow. You don't want people to have to scroll on the pop-up form. That's a no-go. I'd usually bin the logo. Personally, it just takes up space. We want the entire pop-up form to be taken up by the offer. So what's a good offer to run? If your AOV is over $100, I would probably run $10 off. If your AOV is under $100, I would probably run 10%. Either way, $10 is probably better for your margins in majority of circumstances, unless your AOV is under $100. Otherwise, you can always run a mystery discount. Now, the $10 off, we just want to make this front and center. Too big, we don't want it to go over 2 lines. Do you want $10 off? It's sort of putting the ball in their court. I would probably just say you've got $10 off. And we'll sort of semi-bold this to make it stand out. Enter your email to reveal the code. Make this a little smaller. Nice. Let's just improve the spacing on this a bit. You can sort of adjust the block size of each of these elements, although that doesn't seem to be working. There we go. You've got $10 off. I actually want to reduce the top padding a little bit. Remember, we want to just reduce the space as much as possible, so that all the space is pretty much taken up by the offer. Now, this padding here is a little tight, a little annoying. And we want to make the button really stand out. At the moment, all the fields here are a little narrow. There's a bit of like left and right padding going on. And let's change everything to capitals. Unlock now. There's a lot of left and right padding. Let's do it like that. No, you can write something cheeky here, like no. I'll pay full price. When someone clicks that, it'll close the form. Happy days. Reduce the font size of this a little bit. So, I mean, this isn't like a perfect form by any means. I've whipped it up in about 3 minutes, but I guarantee this would in itself go on to start driving like better results. I want to see how big I can get this offer without it spewing onto 2 lines. You've got $10 off. Probably make this bigger now that I've reduced the padding. Pushing my luck. Nice. This pop-up form would convert very well. Now, the other thing you want to do is make sure that you're on brand. So if we go to styles, change up the background color, make it whatever you want, make sure it's on brand, make sure it's not too much of an eyesore. Like, you want people to be able to opt in very well. Like a white or a black form is probably just going to work best, to be honest. It's super simple. So I'm going to personally leave it like this. Maybe you can change the color of the offer to make that stand out a little bit more. But really, it depends on your branding. Simple as. I'd reduce the size of the X just a little bit. You don't want it to be like super prominent, but you also don't really want to hide the X. Like, you can make it really hard for people to click the X, but that's when you're going to annoy people. Like, you still want people to be able to click off. Nice. Now that's all I would do for this. And then on the success page, I would just give the coupon, and you can customize this in the exact same manner. Now, what can you add here to make it a little better? So I told you about the sort of micro commitment. Let's just create a blank step, move that to the start, and just say you've got $10 off. Now we're going to reduce the padding on this again. So you can actually make like a micro commitment step like this. Make the button a little bigger. Yeah, you can actually make a micro commitment step just like this, where you can get people to opt in first, so they can sort of psychologically commit to the form before having to put in their email. So they can click unlock now. That then takes them to this, where it's like, you've got $10 off, enter your email to reveal the code. Email, unlock now. Then it shows them the code on the last page. This would be a great pop-up form. Honestly, like, it's not obviously aesthetically the best, but I'm not really designing it for a brand here. I'm just making it up. But, make it suit your sort of brand's colors. And then, you've got $10 off, unlock now. You've got $10 off, enter your email to reveal the code. Email, unlock now. You could obviously spice up the copy a little bit. I would just test it. Usually you want to throw out an MVP, get something live, start collecting emails, then A/B test it. So, I'd probably change the copy on the second step, not have it the same as the first step. You've got $10 off, and then I'd change it to claim your $10 off, enter your email to reveal the code, reveal code, something like that. That would be very good. The other thing you can do is create multiple of these buttons to sort of create like the Nike form. So if unfortunately you can't duplicate things easy in this form builder, the downsides of Klaviyo obviously are how easy it is to build, but I could create all these buttons. It's as simple as this. For example, say this button text was, I care about acne. This button text is dry skin. This button text is aging. Now, pretend they're all sort of the same form here, or the same style rather. What you can do is map each of these buttons to a particular profile property. So for this, I might actually say like, which of these best describes you? So you've got $10 off. I mean, the padding here is a little, how you going? I'd play around with this a little bit. But then, so for example, for dry skin, you can create a custom profile property. So we want all of these to say, go to next step. Show next step. Show next step. Show next step. But you can add a profile property. So the source is subscribe for a coupon, but you can add a property here where it's like skin type. Then for the value, this one is dry skin. Now for this button, skin type, the value can be acne. And for this button, the skin type, the value can be aging. Now we have a form that when someone clicks this, it maps what they are to their exact profile property. They can click through, then it'll get them to put their email in, they can unlock it, and bang, they get the code. Simple as that. Now, when it comes to A/B testing, all I would do here is say, create an A/B test. Usually want to A/B test the first step. So I can create an A/B test. And then I would just change super simple things one at a time. So I can flick through the two, but on copy two, I want to change one thing here. So what might I bin? I might actually bin the whole quiz in itself and test the difference between having a quiz and not having a quiz at the start, or all the blocks or whatever you want to do. And then I would just change this to unlock now. Simple as that. We can make this button nice and big again. So on an A/B test, I might just run, all right, quiz here versus no quiz. Super simple. You might change the copy. You might change the color of the button. You might change something on the second step. The only tough thing to change is the offer, because then you typically got to change your welcome flow as well. But realistically, A/B testing, pick one thing at a time, run the A/B test. It's super simple. Pick the copy, pick the button, pick the contents. Obviously here, like I said in this example, pick the quiz, colors, size, everything. That's all you need to do. Always optimize your form for mobile. You can flick between desktop and mobile. This one's not very optimized for desktop. I would run two separate forms. So when I'm done here, I would duplicate this one. What you can actually do is inside this form, if you just want this one to run on mobile for your targeting, obviously for this, I would sort of recommend running it based on 5 seconds, or 6 to 7 seconds. And then you can change it to show on mobile only. Then you can duplicate the form and make a desktop only version and optimize it for desktop, because obviously they're going to look different on each device. You want to optimize one for mobile, duplicate it, optimize one for desktop. Super simple. So it's pretty much how you set up and test a form. In terms of the results you should expect, anywhere from 3 to 20%, to be honest, depending on your industry, your traffic quality, the offer you're running. At a minimum, you want to be able to collect 3% at a very minimum. A healthy benchmark is 5 to 10%. But some brands with hot traffic and a good offer can get to 20% plus. So all in all, pretty simple video. Pop-up forms are super, super important. Each email subscriber is worth a lot of money for most brands over their lifetime. They're not annoying. Don't worry about what the loud minority says. And in my opinion, they're the highest leverage thing in your Klaviyo account. This video in total was about 20 or so minutes. I spent about 10 minutes creating like a really good pop-up form that would opt in just fine. Personally, I think this version is my favorite. This would absolutely print. You'd be surprised. And that's all you need to do. Run a pop-up form. Make sure you test it regularly. We run tests every single week on pop-up forms until they're validated. Sometimes it takes 7 days to validate a test. Sometimes it takes 3. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks. But we're always consistently running a test until we get statistical significance. And in my opinion, just run it inside Klaviyo. Super simple. But yeah, that's pop-up forms in a nutshell. If you haven't already, I'd recommend going and checking out some of my other videos, specifically how to analyze LTV using Klaviyo. This one's an absolute banger. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.